Louisiana, USA, September 11, 2024.
Yeah, now it's picked up a little bit. We're going through the eye wall right now.
Thousands live in the dark as Hurricane Francine churns across Louisiana, raising flooding concerns. Hurricane Francine made landfall Wednesday afternoon in southern Louisiana, bringing high winds and dangerous storm surge. WDSU has crews in several cities, giving you a first-hand look at the impact. Aubrey Killian said in Morgan City, "The winds are already picking up and the rain is starting to get heavier." Hurricane Francine slammed into the Louisiana coast Wednesday night as a dangerous Category 2 storm that knocked out power to more than 250,000 customers and threatened widespread flooding as it sent a potentially deadly storm surge crashing inland along the Gulf Coast.
Alright, update again. Have to be really flooded.
Francine made landfall in Terrebonne Parish, about 30 miles, 50 kilometers, southwest of Morgan City, the National Hurricane Center announced at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
There we go.
With winds reaching 100 miles per hour, 155 kilometers per hour, the storm slammed into a fragile coastal region that had yet to fully recover from a series of devastating hurricanes in 2020 and 2021. Morgan City Fire Chief Alvin Cockerham said the storm quickly flooded roads, downed power lines and toppled tree limbs. "To be honest, it was a little worse than I thought it would be," Cockerham said of the attack. "I pulled all my trucks back to the station. It was too dangerous to be out there in this situation." TV news broadcasts from coastal communities showed waves from nearby lakes, rivers and the Gulf hitting seawalls. Water poured into city streets amid blinding torrential rain. Oaks and cypresses tilted in the strong winds, and some power poles swayed back and forth. As Francine continued its path inland, it dumped heavy rain on New Orleans and surrounding areas, raising concerns of flooding. Louisiana power outages reached 261,000 hours after the storm made landfall, widespread across southeastern Louisiana. Power outages affected most homes and businesses in the coastal parishes closest to where the storm made landfall as well as their inland neighbors, according to the tracking site poweroutage.us. Sheltering in her mother's home outside Morgan City, Laura Leftwich said the winds had swept away 2 large birdhouses outside. She had a generator running an internet connection so she could video chat with friends, holding her computer up to the window to show them the water overflowing the street. "If the storm had been any stronger, I wouldn't have had the guts to look outside," said Leftwich, 40. "It was kind of scary." The National Hurricane Center urged residents to stay in their homes overnight as the weakening storm moved inland. The storm's path was expected to include New Orleans, where forecasters said the eye of the storm could pass. The 6th named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season, Francine, drawing fuel from the unusually warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, strengthened into a Category 2 hurricane with winds exceeding 96 miles per hour, 155 kilometers per hour, hours before making landfall. The still dangerous storm began to weaken as it moved inland. 3 hours after making landfall, it was barely a hurricane, with top winds dropping to 75 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour. Francine was moving northeast at a brisk 17 miles per hour, 28 kilometers per hour, on a path toward New Orleans, about 50 miles, 80 kilometers, away. The storm is expected to weaken further as it moves north across Mississippi on Thursday, with heavy rains in the coming days potentially leading to flash flooding in cities including Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, and Atlanta. The storm also has an increased threat of tornadoes. Much of Louisiana and Mississippi could receive 4 to 8 inches, 10 to 20 centimeters, of rain, with 12 inches, 30 centimeters, possible in some places, said Brad Reinhardt, senior hurricane specialist at the Hurricane Center. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry said the National Guard would be deployed to parishes affected by Francine. They have food, water, nearly 400 waterproof vehicles, about 100 boats and 50 helicopters to respond to storms, including possible search and rescue operations. Since the mid-19th century, about 57 hurricanes have crossed or made landfall in Louisiana, according to the Weather Channel. Among them are some of the strongest, costliest and deadliest storms in U.S. history. Morgan City, home to about 11,500 people, sits on the Atchafalaya River in southern Louisiana and is surrounded by lakes and marshes. It is described on its website as the gateway to the Gulf of Mexico for the shrimping and oil fields. Luis Morfin left his RV outside the Morgan City levee to spend the night at a friend's house Wednesday night. High winds whipped through the windows as they watched TV powered by a generator. The power was out, but they were ready to cook steak and potatoes on a propane stove. "We know what to expect," Morfin said. "I don't know how good my camper is, but we'll find out tomorrow." President Joe Biden issued an emergency declaration to help Louisiana secure expedited federal funding and aid. Landry and Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves also declared emergencies. The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency said it was distributing more than 100,000 sandbags to the southern part of the state, and the Department of Education reported several school district closures Wednesday and Thursday amid forecasts of the storm moving through the state. Francine has prompted storm surge warnings for the Louisiana coast of up to 10 feet, 3 meters, from Cameron to Port Fortune and into Vermilion Bay. Francine made landfall in Terrebonne Parish, about 30 miles southwest of Morgan City, the National Hurricane Center said at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Saving Time. With maximum sustained winds near 100 miles per hour, the storm slammed into a fragile coastal area that has yet to fully recover from a series of devastating hurricanes in 2020 and 2021. Morgan City Fire Chief Alvin Cockerham said the storm quickly flooded roads, downed power lines and toppled tree limbs. TV news broadcasts from nearby coastal Louisiana communities showed waves from lakes, rivers and the Gulf hitting seawalls. Water poured into city streets and neighborhoods amid blinding heavy rain. Oak and cypress trees tilted in the high winds, and some power poles swayed back and forth. The hardest hit areas were Terrebonne Parish, near where the storm's center made landfall, as well as St. Paul Parish. Mary, that includes Morgan City. Terrebonne Parish President Jason Bergeron told CBS News on Wednesday that the levees were still holding, but the water was rising. The ground is saturated, and because the drainage system is shut off, it's harder for the water to get out, except in a few areas where there are pumps, Bergeron said. Sheltering at her mother's house outside Morgan City, Laura Leftwich said the winds had swept away 2 large birdhouses outside. She has a generator running an internet connection so she can video chat with friends, holding her computer up to the window to show them the water overflowing the street. "If the storm had been any stronger, I wouldn't have had the guts to look outside," said Leftwich, 40. "It's kind of scary." The National Hurricane Center urged residents to stay in place overnight as the storm moved inland. The storm's path was expected to include New Orleans, where forecasters said the eye of the storm could pass. Conditions are going to deteriorate very rapidly over the next few hours, Jamie Rome, deputy director of the Hurricane Center, said in an online briefing before the storm made landfall. "It's not going to be a pleasant night to drive on the highway, especially as the sun goes down." Heavy rains pounded New Orleans early Wednesday and were expected to intensify as Francine approached. New Orleans could receive up to 10 inches of rain, testing the city's water pumps and drainage systems. "Stay indoors, stay home," New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell said at a news conference Wednesday. Now is the time, from now until midnight. A flash flood emergency was declared for New Orleans, Metairie and Kenner until 11:45 p.m. local time, the National Weather Service said. Francine was drawing fuel from the very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, strengthening into a Category 2 hurricane hours before making landfall, the National Hurricane Center said. A Category 2 hurricane is a hurricane with winds between 96 and 110 miles per hour that can cause major damage. The still dangerous storm began to weaken as it moved inland, reverting to a Category 1 hurricane in less than 2 hours with top winds of 85 miles per hour. Francine continued to move northeast at a brisk 17 miles per hour on a path toward New Orleans, about 55 miles away.